You know, the biggest problem with the slave mentality, which is what you have, uh, that's why when guys hit, I don't know, around 50 years old, they hit the midlife crisis, and they have to buy a Corvette, you know, and a lot of them end up getting divorced and try to get the young girl and capture their youth, you know, and, and you can't escape your slave mentality, and a lot of buying the car and is trying to escape this slave. Like, what's the one thing a slave wants to do is not feel like a slave. And I think a lot of people that drive Corvettes think they're not slaves. They think they're in the upper echelon. And really, a Corvette is like a Kia in the world of sports cars. It's the bottom of the basement. You know, I mean, it doesn't look bad, but it's really not a good car. It's not a. I mean, you can't put it up against a Ferrari or a Lamborghini or some of the other ones. Uh, I mean, for Chevrolet, it's the most expensive car they sell is a Corvette. But it's not saying much when you're buying the most expensive Chevrolet. You know, so, you know, but it's all an attempt to give the aura, the mystique that you're not a slave. How could you be a slave if you drive a Corvette? And and you are a slave. That's how you bought the Corvette. You had to be a slave for all the years it took you to get the credit or the money to buy the Corvette. You know, and I think you know that. I mean, you could deny it all you want, but the truth is the truth. Uh, work yourself to death is how you were brought up. Working. I mean, I don't know anymore, but when people would retire at 65, they were lucky if they survived to 67. You know, I mean, and that's why I say not anymore because now people are living to their 90s, their 80s. But a lot of people, uh, you hear a lot about 80s and 90-year-olds and even 100-year-old people. But if you look at the numbers, the majority of people are dropping dead at 75 and around that. They don't make it to 80. The majority don't make it. And there's a lot of reasons for that. The years of work that they put in that destroyed their bodies, and they just can't continue to move on. They have to move on into the next world. And I think when you hit 50, uh, you start to feel that. It's like it's not that far away. It's not something you can put off. You know, and if you want to get that younger girl and you want to have that sports car, it's not a good idea to think you can do it at 60 when you're 50. You know, so and a lot of men at 50 years old, and this is mainly about men, but a lot of men when they're 50 years old, they have money. They're not poor. Uh, if if it's not in cash, they have it in property and stuff like that. So they can do those things, and they think they can buy their way out of their slave mentality. Like it's like a slave trying to free himself by buying his freedom. And you know the problem with that is the slave is in you, the slave about you, and the slave that you are. It's not shackles on your feet or on your hands. It's in your brain. It's between your ears. That's where you're a slave. You're a slave between your ears, and you're a slave to your wants and desires, whether it's a Ferrari or a Corvette, it doesn't matter. You're a slave to that. You can't think about anything else. Nothing else will make you happy, you know. And a lot of 50-year-olds and stuff, they play a lot of lottery, or they do a lot of gambling, because they do have money. They have money to buy a Corvette, so they have money to gamble with, and they're thinking when they go into the casino, or I guess nowadays they download it on their phone, is that they're gonna buy two Corvettes with the money they make, which they're lucky if they can buy a Pinto when they get done gambling because it takes all their money. But they're a slave to their wants and desires, and expectations. And that's the easy life. That's the easy life. Like winning the lottery is the easy way of thinking. It's like I'm gonna win the lottery and I'm gonna do X, Y, Z. Well, the biggest problem with that whole statement is winning the lottery, which is, you know, astronomical. The odds are, forget it. So, but you don't forget it. You actually think you're gonna win, or that you could win. That was that $1 billion lottery that just happened like last week. One person won it. One person won $1 billion. One person out of maybe a billion people buying lottery tickets. One person won. The odds are just out of this world, and yet you're sitting there thinking, "I'm gonna win." I'm gonna buy that house. I'm gonna go on that trip. You know, and you're not, and you're not, and it's just you're looking for your happiness outside your body. You look at your wrist, and maybe you have a Rolex on your wrist, and I don't know why, but it makes you happy. I have an Apple Watch. It happens to be a Apple Watch 11. It's the latest one they have out. They don't sell 12. They don't sell 12s just yet, but they're working on it. But now the 11 is the most, and I just bought it recently. And I bought it because of the technology in it. But when you buy a 50,000 Rolex, you're not buying it for the technology. You're lucky it gives you the date. So it's not the technology you're buying it for. It's for your little penis. It gets a little rise when you look at it. It's like, oh, this makes me happy. It's all a bunch of crap. It's part of your slave mentality. How could you be a slave when you got a $50,000 watch on your wrist? How can you be a slave? But you are. And that's what I'm trying to tell you. You are a slave. You're a slave when you bought it. You're a slave when you earned the money to buy it. And you're a slave because you think you needed it. You know, uh, I don't need a $50,000 Rolex to feel important, to feel happy, to get a rise out of my dick. I don't need it. I don't care what other people think. You know, uh, I don't. I don't need people to think I can afford a $50,000 Rolex. First off, it makes me a target when I'm walking around with it. 'Cause some people know what it is and what it's worth, and they want it. You know, and that's not a good thing because they also are slaves. And instead of working for the money to buy it, they want to just take it, and they might kill you to get it. So it's like it's just a whole round robin rotten system of everything. The way the whole economy, the whole environment, starting from the day you pop out of the womb before you even pop out of the womb. It's already set up for you that way, you know. I mean, once your father found out your mother was pregnant, he went out and bought a baseball bat and a baseball glove. You know, he had your future planned out for you before you even popped out. You know, and it's like, and for a lot of us, that's how our lives were designed before we even popped out. You know, maybe your father was a lawyer, and when your mother was pregnant, he was going to have Sanford and Son as the law firm, and you were going to be the son, and you didn't have much choice. But again, it's all slave mentality, you know, because the most important part about the slave mentality is you don't have any choice. The choice you think you have, is fake. It's illusion. It's not a real choice. It's like the son that's born to a father who's a lawyer. You're going to law school, whether you like it or not. You have no choice. You know, and all the build up until you actually go to the law school, you know, you have to have good grades, you have to go to a good school. Uh, every meal at dinner time, your father's going to school you on the law. You know, the conversation at dinner time is going to be about the law and all the different cases that he's involved in, and how you're going to be involved in it too. You know, and it pretty much goes that way for the rest of your life. You know, because once you do get to law school, then then you have to pass the bar, and your father uh, coach you on doing all that, and for your mother, and then the dinner table conversation will be about what case you're working on at the firm, his firm, which is your firm, and that's the story of your life is law. You know, that's how you were born. You're born into that clutch, but and it could be a doctor, it could be an accountant, it could be anything like that, uh, or a teacher, or anything. You know, a lot of us follow our parents, or our uncles, or our aunts, and because we get the nepotism benefit, you know, and we get a job without interviewing, you know, and who doesn't like that? But you're still a slave. You're born into the plantation is not the plantation, but the law firm is the plantation. It's still the same thing. It doesn't matter if you're picking cotton or you're doing depositions. Now you think, well, I make a lot of money doing depositions. Yeah, you do. And the cotton picker made, you know, they didn't get cash, but they got a place to live. They got free food. Uh, I'm not saying they had it good. They were slaves in the worst way you could be a slave. But to think you got it good as a lawyer, yeah, I don't know. I wouldn't think so. Because what do you, if you don't want to do depositions, what are you going to do? And you have to get up every morning and you have to go to work and you have to clock in, you have to make billable hours. And if you're not doing billable hours, you got to bring in new clients so other people can make billable hours. So it's just a different form of picking cotton. So a spade is a spade, you know. Um, and you'll reach 50 and you'll buy that. Well, if you're a lawyer, you'll probably buy a Ferrari. Yeah, and you don't need a Ferrari. Nobody needs a Ferrari. Nobody needs a Corvette. but your penis needs a Ferrari. Uh, the penis in your brain needs a Ferrari, not the one between your legs. You know, and you know the life I'm talking about is a life you can't imagine. You can't fathom a life where you're not a slave. You know, it's like you've been living inside this box, this slave box, and it's like you're born into a prison cell, and you're doing life. And when you die, they'll take you out of the prison cell and bury you in the back. you know, and that's your life. You know. But in this scenario, the prison cell moves. I mean, you can go on trips, but you always come back to the prison cell. And you kind of take the prison cell with you because the prison cell is between your ears. It's not around your body. And wherever you go, you take that prison cell with you. So, you know, it's like when you go to the islands on a trip, you have to pay a Dom Perignon. You have to have Dom Perignon. You have to have top shelf liquor, you know, and because you're on vacation, you're treating yourself. It's still a slave mentality. You're still a slave. I don't care what you do. You're stuck. I don't know. You know, I have money in my account. Not much, a couple hundred. And that's all I have in the whole world. I don't have a savings account of 401k. I'm 57 years old and I basically have nothing. And I, I have about 200 and change in my account right now. I haven't spent money in a few days. It's been about a week since I spent money. I don't know what I'm going to spend it on because I'm not a prisoner to my wants and needs. I'm not constantly wanting to buy things. If I need to buy something, I can afford it and I would buy it. Depending on, of course, what I'm not going to buy a $50,000 Rolex, but I have a iWatch 11. It's not a cheap watch, but it's not an expensive one either. But it tells me what time it is. you know, it tells me to work out when I don't want to. You know, it's just I can do what I want within reason, of course. But I also don't have to do what I don't want. And that's where the payoff is worth it. Because I don't have to get up every day and go sit at a desk and try to figure out how to make my boss richer or happy when he's the most miserable SOB in the office. And I got to figure out how to make him happy. Or I'm very unhappy if I don't. And I can't live like that. That's the slave mentality. The plantation owner is the most miserable SOB on the plantation. And you got to make him happy. Otherwise, he's going to make you very unhappy. And yeah, it's just, I, there's no simple answer. There's no, just don't go to work tomorrow. Because you know what that kind of trouble that'll bring. Uh, bring a world of trouble to you. But you do have to take a leap of faith. You have to stand on the edge of the cliff, like I did, and you have to jump, like I did. Otherwise, just go back to your cabin and go pick cotton. And don't complain. don't dream. And when you die and you speak to God or you speak to St. Peter and they ask, what'd you do with your life? You can say, I picked cotton. And that's all I did with it. You know, when I die and meet God and St. Peter, I'm not Catholic, so I really don't believe in St. Peter. But anyway, I believe in God, though, or the universe, as I like to call it. Uh, and the universe asks me what I did with my life. I'm going to say I spent it with you. Because everything I do is what the universe tells me. The universe told me to make this video. The universe told me to tell you all the things I'm telling you. Because the universe wants to save you from yourself. But, but the universe is limited into how much it can do. Because if you don't want to do it, it's just not going to get done. I wanted to be free. I was born free. I was never a slave. And I've always lived with the universe. The universe has always been a part of my life. Well, even if I didn't know it, I know it was. I know it now. But it's always been a part of your life too, whether you knew it or not. And and right now, if you found this message, then this is the universe working in your life, bringing you to me. Mm. Why do you think this video's got a candle and a hummingbird? Because it's not about me. It's about that hummingbird. It's about that candle. That fire is in your soul. That hummingbird is the life you're ignoring. There's beauty outside your window, and you never even look outside the window to see it. Probably got a shade or a curtain, and you can't even look outside the window. But you might see a hummingbird if you did. So I'm making you see a hummingbird, whether you like it or not. It's a part of our existence we've conveniently forgot, and get mad when we get reminded that we forgot. You know, I just read that they want to open a gold mine in Alaska and put endangered and very rare beluga whales at risk so they can get their gold. If you ask me, those beluga whales are worth a lot more than any gold they're going to take out of that mine. But like that hummingbird, you don't see it. You're a slave, and all you care about is the gold. But you know the old saying, you don't know what you have until it's gone. So once the whales are gone, that gold ain't going to be worth nothing. So, you know, the plantation owner wants you to want the gold. That's what keeps you coming to work every day. The hummingbird doesn't care about gold. The beluga whales don't care about gold. And you don't care about the hummingbirds or the beluga whales. All you care about is the gold. And the gold don't care about you. And if you have a pile of gold, you won't have it for long. So, priorities, right? The Corvette, the Ferrari. It's a shame. It's really a shame that this is what this world has turned into. Yeah. And it has nothing more than to do with control and manipulation. They manipulate you and control you with the gold. They can't control and manipulate you with the hummingbird and the whale. So they use the gold. And you buy it hook, line, and sinker. It's the bait on the end of a hook. They put gold on the end of the hook and you go for it every time. That's why you're wearing a Rolex watch right now. Because you went for the bait. You went for the gold. Probably cost them $50 to make that watch that you paid 50,000 for. That was the bait. And you took it hook, line, and sinker. So I don't know. I can't tell you how to break free from your slave mentality because I'm not one of you. And I've never been one of you. So I'm really not the best person to ask. And I can just show you what living on the other side is like. I'm outside the prison, and it's a good life. It's a very good life. But like a prison, it's not one wall you got to get through. There are several. Most prisons have at least three walls, and then a series of fences before you get on the outside. Not to mention all the obstacles you have to conquer just to get to the first wall. But and that's why I say I know it's not easy. I'm not trying to sell you that it's easy. It's not. And 99.9% of you are going to fail. I'd say 98% of you aren't even going to try. But the 1% that tries, only 1% of the 1% is going to actually get on the other side of that wall and outside that prison. So, you like challenges. You want a challenge. There's your challenge. Break free of your prison. And it's not going to be in an orthodox way. It's not a matter of going to school and getting a degree and you'll be free. I told you the lawyer isn't free. So what would the degree do for you? So, like I said, it's not easy.